a fucking good crowd so far. Oh my god. You are beating the shit out of Minneapolis and Milwaukee. I feel so welcome, thank you. So for my Make-A-Wish, and yes, I did have Make-A-Wish, which by the way, for our reading challenge, George just called me a Make-A-Wish bitch, and they obviously could not air that. But I love her for it. But for my Make-A-Wish, when I was 15, I wished to go to Las Vegas. We saw Cirque du Soleil and got our nails done, and I had explosive diarrhea on the roller coaster at Circus Circus. It was awesome. Before we move on, I do have something really important to mention. Something really close to my heart, especially in Detroit, is that I have merch in the lobby. If you need to get that, you're just looking for anything to just throw around your house that you'll never touch, then please, it's a good cause. My brother John ended up being my donor when he was only 18 years old. Brave or stupid, we'll never know. But regardless, he did probably the sweetest thing anyone's ever done for me in my life. He's bald now, so I could return the favor by donating my hair, but I'm far too vain. I grew up a lot after my transplant. My sister Elizabeth was there every step of the way because she had to go through the same thing when she was my age. She was a rebel. She would dress me in leather jackets and dye my hair pink for the school dances. She took me to my very first concert, Metric, when I was 16 years old. She and I would show up late to the Christmas Eve service, and she'd be dressed in a mini skirt, ripped tights, and a cheetah jacket, turning every eye in the audience. It felt so good to piss those people off. She taught me that anything in life is free if you just walk out with it. And possibly the most healing of all, she introduced me to a little show called RuPaul's Drag Race. My favorite queen was Tammy Brown, ever since I saw her spit water into a car. And Elizabeth's favorite was Willow, because Willow said, emotions are for ugly people. I started drag at the Colorado State University drag show. In the show with me was Mrs. Kasha Davis, Darian Lake, and Jiggly Caliente. People I'd idolized for years on Drag Race since I started. I got my first outfit from Forever 21 with my sister Laura, and I made her buy it because I was too embarrassed to purchase girls' clothes, even though the cashier was a full-grown man working at Forever 21. Laura was in the audience that day at the University Drag Show along with 1,400 other people. It was the biggest rush I've ever had in my life. I remember thinking to myself, every show from here on out will be this packed. In the show with me was a very tall and bendy girl that drove up from Denver, Colorado, and she had just won the state's biggest club title, the Ultimate Queen. Her name was Evie Oddly. Can you believe they let those two people win? Something's wrong with you all. Later that year, I made a documentary about her for one of my video production classes in college. I met her at her Denver apartment. The floor was covered in cigarette butts and popper stains. I was in love. She talked so passionately about where she wanted to take her drag in the world. I wanted to follow right in her footsteps. Before her, I hadn't had many queer friends, but around Evie, I felt so free to be a girl, to be a boy, and to be a criminal. Drag was much harder than I thought. I spent years performing for free, sometimes performing for an adoring crowd on a Friday night, but most of your time I spent lip-syncing to Cocktail Twins in the basement, while the 4 people in the audience are avoiding eye contact with you. There was nights I would walk away with $17 and thought, wow, with all this money, I could almost buy an Uber home. But I was addicted, being adored for my femininity instead of scolded for it. In the Denver scene, I met people that would change my life forever. Heavenly Powers, Sexy Sadie, Finn James, Veronica Kills. It was my dream. I had gone from being a prudish kid playing match the biblical character to the verse, playing How Many Whippets Before I Pass Out? And my personal favorite, how much meth is in this Coke? Most of our time was spent in the clubs, Trax nightclub in Denver, Gladys Bar where I had my monthly show pillbox. I would often travel to Berlin nightclub in Chicago. Right? All of these places being queer establishments for years, full of history of older trans and queer people before us who changed our lives. Despite how it felt as a kid, I'm certainly not the first queer person to have a battle with religion. It's because of this crushing, oppressive Christianity that we have the community that we have today, especially